Go ahead, Benjamin.
All right, am I on now?
We have you. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, before I talk about what I called in for, I'd like to make two quick comments before I derail your current conversation.
Okay.
One is Andrew Jackson was the 7th
there you go.
of the United States. And the second is, even if you are, to the audience out there, even if you are not someone who uses drugs or wants to use drugs or whatever, you should be against the war on drugs because it puts you at risk. I am someone who doesn't use drugs, doesn't live in a home where drugs are here, but I am at risk because of the war on drugs. I am at risk of cops breaking into our home and possibly assaulting me. So even if you are not a drug user or don't want to use drugs, you should be against the war on drugs.
So you're talking about the last number I saw was 40,000 drug raids per year, and it's likely gone up because that's a rather old number. It's at least several years old. So potentially 50+ thousand drug raids per year, you're saying could, obviously with that many drug raids and with somebody who doesn't get in trouble for making a mistake, there are mistakes made. People are killed in their homes in drug raids that have never done drugs in their lives.
It's true.
Right.
They had a baby recently, was scarred for life, fortunately survived, had a stun grenade thrown in its crib by somebody who's not even going to get a day off. It isn't even going to be isn't going to lose 1 day's pay over throwing a hand grenade into a baby's crib.
Well, Mark, it's war.
Right.
Okay.
It's a war against American citizens.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, it's called a war on drugs, but really it's a very one-sided war. I mean, normally in a war, like the classic definition of war is there's two sides fighting one another, or at least two sides fighting one another. And in the case of the drug war,
one side hasn't figured out who the enemy is yet.
What do you mean by that? One side doesn't know who the enemy is.
Well, if there's a war being fought, and that war is being fought against the American people,
yes,
then the American people don't know it. Because they could actually do something about it. Their husbands, wives, children, brothers and sisters are being hired and being given paychecks by policing agencies to institute a war on drugs that's called war on drugs, and we can see the results, and we've seen the results for decades, and the results generally are not good.
Destroyed lives, dead people, sure.
Higher traffic fatalities, more teen drug use. Everything we've talked about in the last hour is being paid for, is jobs for law enforcement officers. We don't need them. They're hurting people. Not all of them. I'm not saying that we don't need that there don't need to be rules that people live by. I'm not claiming that. What I am
I
claiming,
support the police when they arrest bad people who hurt people. If the police are arresting murderers, rapists, arsonists, bad people like that, I'm behind them. Please, let me know how I can help with that. But with arresting drug users, arresting other peaceful people, underage drinkers, you name it, anybody who hasn't actually created a victim, I find a real problem. Now, Benjamin, you mentioned that you don't do drugs. Does that include caffeine? Do you ever, have a cup of coffee or?
No, I don't have coffee or tea. I do occasionally have a Dr. Pepper.
They are delicious.
So I guess that minuscule amount of caffeine. But you know what else? I also eat
Benjamin.
chocolate.
Yeah. Do you feel the effects of caffeine? Chocolate and Dr. Pepper.
Yes. Strangely, not when I stop drinking. Like in the past, I've drank more soda. Strangely, it's not from withdrawals. It's when I haven't had it for a while and then I have it. I get a headache the first couple of times I drink it, and then I don't have it anymore until I stop drinking it.
You're better off without it.
Yeah, that's usually how people who have a caffeine addiction do it. Is they they start using and then they try to stop. They get the headache, and that drives them to continue using it. It seems to be a pretty powerful drug.
And I tend to stick to root beer, so it's not a thing.
Give up the sugar too, man.
Hey, do you take aspirin? Do you take things like pharmaceutical drugs?
No, actually, well, I have. It's not like I refuse to use those, but I have taken those. But a lot of times, it recommends take 2 aspirin or whatever, and I'll have 1.
Sure.
because
I try not to make my body dependent on the painkillers.
I take a low dose aspirin every single day. There's a lot of evidence that aspirin not only helps you with coronary disease, but also with cancer.
And I'm not against using drugs for medical reasons. I'm not against those. I have no interest in recreational drugs. It's just a personal preference of mine.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.